In my previous video, I talked about Laplace, who proposes determinism, and Robert Kane, who argues for free will. Now I will discuss compatibilism, which is a middle ground between determinism and libertarianism. Harry Frankfurt, a famous American philosopher, has proposed a view of compatibilism that has profoundly impacted modern philosophy. He contends that everything in the nature obeys the rules of cause and effect. What a person will do would be determined by prior events, or that person as prior psychological state. From this perspective, everything happens for a reason which can be traced back to the Big Bang. Since then, everything is locked in a causal chain, and everything unfolding is determined by the cosmos rule. However, even though everything is determined by the cosmos rules, humans can still be considered as free in some situations. To understand how compatibilism reconciles determinism with free will, let's delve into one of Frankfurt's essays called Freedom of Will and Concepts of a Person. Frankfurt challenges the prevailing notion that free will and determinism are incompatible. Instead, he argues that determinism does not necessarily negate the existence of free will. Let me explain this idea using an analogy. Imagine a billiard ball rolling down a pool table. Its path is predetermined by the laws of physics and the initial conditions set in motion by the player who first struck it. However, the ball's movement can still be described as free if we consider the entire pool table as the system. In this context, the ball's motion is free within the constraints of the table's boundaries and the laws of physics. Similarly, human actions are determined by prior causes, but these causes include our desires, beliefs, and intentions, which are not fixed by external forces. This, according to Frankfurt, is what makes human action free. In his essay, Frankfurt introduces the concept of second-order desires as a key element in understanding human freedom. He contends that humans have the unique ability to desire their first-order desires.
For instance, if we discover that our first-order desire, or a want, is inappropriate or harmful, we can form a second-order desire to change it. This ability to reflect on and modify our first-order desires is what sets us apart from animals and gives rise to our freedom. Let me illustrate this concept with an example. You come home after a long day of work and decide to relax and watch TV.
However, while watching TV, you start to feel guilty about neglecting your work, and you realize that you do not want to feel this way. As a result, you form a first-order desire to go back to work and finish your pending tasks. This first-order desire is then submitted to a second-order desire. You form a second-order desire to no longer desire things that will cause you guilt, and this second-order desire leads to a new first-order desire to work hard and accomplish your tasks. This process of reflecting on and changing one's first-order desires is what Frankfurt refers to as a second-order volition. Second-order volition is essentially the exercise of free will. It is the ability to evaluate our desires and actions and make conscious choices about what we want to do. Now let's think about the billiard ball again. If the player who first struck it had second-order volition, he could have decided not to hit it in the first place. In contrast, the billiard ball analogy illustrates how our desires and beliefs can serve as the initial conditions that determine our subsequent actions. These internal states are not fixed by external forces, giving rise to what Frankfurt calls first-order freedom. On the other hand, second-order desire arises from our ability to reflect on and modify our first-order desires. By exercising second-order desire, we can align our first-order desires with our broader goals and values, ultimately leading to a more fulfilling life. This concept of second-order desire has been influential in contemporary philosophy, particularly in the field of moral responsibility. Proponents of compatibilism like Frankfurt argue that it is compatible with determinism and that it provides a more realistic account of human agency. Determinism holds that all events are caused by prior events and that human actions are no exception. However, compatibilists argue that this does not preclude the existence of free will. Instead, they propose that free will and determinism are complementary and that they can coexist within a single framework. Compatibilists like Frankfurt believe that the traditional philosophical debate surrounding free will is misguided and that it arises from a failure to properly understand the nature of causation and human agency. Alright, this is today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Your support means a lot to me. Thanks for watching.